In reality, business is simple. It's not easy, but it's simple. And when we complicate it, we screw things up. At the end of the day, business, whether you have an online business, an offline business, whether you're selling a product or information, it really doesn't matter. It comes down to the basics. It comes down to taking the time to truly understand your people. And I'm talking about really understanding them. Welcome to the Certified Badass Online Marketing Podcast, where being a badass has less to do with what you wear and what music you listen to, and everything to do with whether you've got the thriving online business of your dreams. I'm your renegade thinking Harvard Law grad turned online entrepreneur host, Bobby Klinck. In my years building my thriving business, the most important lesson I've learned is that being a badass online marketer isn't about secret strategies or ninja tactics. It's about doing the basic stuff right and showing the F up. So each week here on the show, you'll get clear, easy to execute guidance on how to build your online business and a swift kick in the ass or two to make sure you're getting it done. Hey there, welcome to episode 141 of the Certified Badass Online Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Bobby Klinck, and today's episode, I'm going to get up on a soapbox. But I think it's a good soapbox, and you're going to like it because I'm going to give you permission to simplify and permission to do less. And so I think you're going to like it. Today's episode is all about doing a marketing detox. It's a concept that my team and I were talking about, and they kind of started talking about that what I'm telling people is to do a marketing detox. And I kind of like that word and that phraseology, so it's stuck. So today's episode is going to be all about what you need to do and how to kind of give yourself this marketing detox to hopefully make things better, but also make yourself feel better about your business. So that's what we're going to be getting into. But before we dive in, this week's episode is brought to you by my pretty new quiz. At the point I'm recording this, it's new, but the point it's going live, it's been out a while. It's a quiz that's all about helping you find what holes you have in your email marketing. It's called the What's Your Number One Email Marketing Fatal Flaw quiz, and it's about basically helping to identify where you're doing it wrong when it comes to email. Now, I'm kind of known as the email guy, and a lot of people tell me that my emails are the only emails they open on a regular basis. And after hearing that a bunch, I kind of dug in and was trying to figure out why that is, because candidly, I don't open most people's emails either. And so I dug in and I kind of found a lot of the different flaws and what people were doing that make this stuff just plain old boring. And so I want to help identify that for people and tell them how to fix it. So that's what the quiz is about. It helps you identify those flaws. Then you get a customized report and a video that walks through what you need to be doing instead. You can take the quiz by heading over to bobbyklinck.com/fatal flaw. Again, bobbyklinck.com/fatal flaw. And once you do it, post your results online. Let me know. Let me know what results did you get? Does it make sense? And I'd love your feedback. You can always tag me on Instagram. I'm at Bobby Klinck on Facebook as well. I'd love to hear from you. So with that, let's dive into today's episode. And today's episode, like I said, is about doing a marketing detox. And this is something that it's interesting for me to talk about because candidly, it's one of those things that you've heard me talk about this probably if you've been in my world very long, where I talk about the word overwhelm. And the word overwhelm isn't something that really resonates with me. I always have kind of, compartmentalized stuff. And also, I tend to perform well when I have 10 balls in the air. And so because of that, I never really feel overwhelmed. But I hear from a lot of you that you do. And when I have surveyed my audience, when I say, what's the biggest challenge, the challenge, frustration, or pain point, every single time, overwhelmed, figuring out all the things that, kind of overwhelmed by the tech, overwhelmed by how everything fits together, overwhelmed by what should I do first and what should I do second. That always comes in first, meaning it is the most pronounced answer I get from people. And when I started thinking about that, it kind of made sense to me. Because the problem is that you are in a world where you are being bombarded by people telling you you need to do different things. You are basically in a world as an online entrepreneur where people are trying to overwhelm you. That's not what they're saying, but essentially they're trying to overwhelm you by constantly adding more and more to your to-do list and telling you that their thing is important. And so the idea behind this episode came from a prior episode I had done. It was episode 131, which came out the beginning of February, and it was about my non-launch launch, where I do these email-only launches, and I talked about that. And in my email to my list, kind of announcing it, they talked about, I talked about how I kind of have launch envy, but not really. Meaning I have all these friends who are doing six-figure launches, and sometimes I get jealous, but then I'm not, because I've seen behind the curtain on many launches, and I know the stress involved. I know that candidly, those six-figure launches often include, huge Facebook ad spends where people are spending money up front, and there are problems with Facebook. And if you've done Facebook advertising, you know that Facebook advertising it's almost like, comical at this point, because they will reject ads. Like I've had ads for like a legal template, a free legal guide or a free legal template, declined based on them being multi-level marketing or get-rich-quick scheme ads. And I just think that's hilarious, but that kind of thing happens. And so I know that when that happens to you in the middle of a launch, or worse yet, I've heard people who've had their entire Facebook ads account shut down in the middle of a launch. And when that happens, it is just mind-numbingly, stressful and pressure. And so kind of my email to my list was about how I didn't really, I wasn't jealous because I'd found this simpler, easier way, and I enjoyed it more. And I sent the email, and candidly, I'm going to be honest with you, when I wrote that email, I didn't feel like it missed the mark, but I didn't feel like it was a really great email. Well, my audience told me different. The response was overwhelming. I had people writing back telling me that literally my email made them cry, that they were thanking me profusely for telling them that they didn't have to chase what everyone else was doing, that they could chart a different path, that they could do something different. It was overwhelming. And then I had people literally, commenting on the podcast episode saying that it was mind-blowing to them as well. And so that kind of led me to say, I want to talk about this more broadly, because I think it's a broader point. It's not just about launches. It's time for people generally in our space to kind of recognize that they need to detox a bit from the marketing. And it's not detoxing from all marketing, because we're marketers, right? That's what we do. But it's detoxing and simplifying. And so I want to talk about 5 things today to help you in the process. And the first thing I'm going to tell you is going to sound counterintuitive. Maybe, I don't know. But it's that you need to stop listening to and following the gurus. And the reason why I say it's counterintuitive is because I've got this podcast and I guess I'm kind of a guru. And so I'm telling you, don't listen to me. And as I'm recording this, I'm thinking that literally, I don't know, I may or may not, but I'm thinking that the subject line for my podcast email about this may be stop listening to me, to be kind of cheeky about it. But my point here is that the problem is that we are bombarded constantly by gurus who are telling us that we need to do what they're doing, that we have to use their launch style, we have to use their kind of product, we have to use their kind of tool, we have to use their kind of whatever it is. And so the result is that you're hearing, again, if you're like me online, you are constantly seeing ads, you're constantly seeing this. So all of a sudden you feel, oh my goodness, do I really? Okay, so I've got to have a Facebook group. Oh, I've got to work on organic Facebook traffic. Oh, I've got to have an Instagram account and I need to get 10,000 followers there. Oh, wait, no, I need to be on TikTok because that's the hot thing these days. And then there's Twitter, and then there's LinkedIn, and then there's all of these things. And that's in the social media world. But beyond that, you're also hearing about all these different launch mechanisms and why this one is perfect. Why, oh, no, it's got to be a webinar, it's got to be a challenge, or it's got to be a 3-part video series, or it's got to be something else. And then you're hearing about all the kinds of different products and people talking about how you need an ascension model. So you need an entry-level product, a mid-level product, an expensive level product, and then a crazy high-price product that is just an anchor so that everything else looks cheap. And you hear all this, and at some point, you can get tired just listening to it. And I get it. I understand why people feel overwhelmed listening to all this stuff, because a lot of these gurus are telling you that their way is the way. And that's one of the things that I try to be careful about. Now, I honestly believe that the way I've built my business is one of the better ways. But I'm not going to tell you that it's the only way. Like even in my launch method episode back in 131, I didn't tell people that was the only way. I told people it's something that they might want to consider, that maybe they want to try it. And in fact, I talked about, where it might be a good fit and where it might not be a good fit. And I don't tell people that you have to be on Facebook, because I recognize that I enjoy Facebook because it suits my personality. So I try to be careful not to tell you that you have to do everything my way. Now, there are a couple of places where I'm passionate, right? Which is that I believe that email marketing is huge and that you need to be doing it the right way. But I also haven't seen a lot of people have a lot of, success doing it other ways. So it's slightly different. But, when it comes to products, here's what I'm going to tell you. You can build a successful online business with all kinds of products. Now, courses are great, and I love courses. But really, my workshops are the only courses I've got. A membership is great, and I love a membership, but it may not be for you because it means you have to do some additional work. Having a group coaching program is great if you enjoy coaching people and you enjoy that kind of work, but you don't have to have a group coaching program. And so I like to tell people that there are people who have built successful business models with all kinds of different products and all kinds of different launch mechanisms. And you don't have to listen to any one person and follow their advice, much less do you have to listen to all the people. And that's the problem. Too many entrepreneurs are listening to too many people. And by listening here, I want to be very clear. I listen to a lot of people, but I listen to them and I don't necessarily feel like, okay, I have to do this. So for example, I've listened to many people talk about the virtues of LinkedIn. As of the time I'm recording this, I basically do nothing on LinkedIn. And is it possible that there's value in LinkedIn and that, I could get some traction in LinkedIn? Sure. But it means time. It means effort. It means either I have to do it or my social media manager has to do it. And the question for me is always, is it worth the extra time, the extra effort, and taking my attention away from the other things that I'm already working on? Those are the questions that I ask myself and that I need to get an answer to before I'm going to do anything else. And those are the kinds of questions you need to ask yourself when you have another guru. So the problem isn't necessarily with, listening to the gurus. It's with thinking you have to follow them. Now, if you are someone who has, listens to someone, gets an idea and says, I've just got to try that, then yes, you literally do need to stop listening to so many gurus. But the concept is that they don't have kind of the holy grail and you don't have to follow the gurus. So that's the first thing, is I want you to stop listening to some of the gurus. Next, and this one you've heard me talk about before, and I will continue to talk about it. You need to stop chasing secret strategies and ninja tactics or whatever people are calling them, where they're presenting them as, I've got this really, I've got the secret that nobody else knows. I love this saying, and I said it in a Facebook Live, and I'm going to keep saying it. It's kind of a play on the famous phrase that came from the Trojan horse story. But my saying isn't about Greeks bearing gifts. It's beware of gurus bearing secrets. So if I said stop listening to gurus, what I definitely want you to do is stop believing gurus who tell you that they have the secret. If you have someone who comes to you telling you, I've got the secret and you've got to listen, this is going to change everything for you. You are just one funnel away and I've got this map that's got these 850 different lines that are going to show you how to connect it all. Run the other way as fast as you can. Because here's the thing. I have lots of conversations with multi-6 and 7-figure entrepreneurs and even 8-figure entrepreneurs. And you know what? There's no secret. There is no kind of secret strategy that we're hiding from you that if you just knew that, you were going to be successful. No. We don't have some, secret, super secret strategy. When we talk, the funny thing is, like, we often talk about the fact that we are teaching different strategies, different tactics, and I'm kind of different because I teach approach and framework more than a strategy or a tactic other than on the email front. But most people are teaching tactics or strategies, but at the end of the day, what they're really teaching you is messaging and how to deliver a message in an effective way to your people. And you can do that in a bunch of different ways. But it's not a secret. It's not some, you just need to see behind the curtain and you'll have all the information. And again, the way I put it is that, the kind of advanced strategies and tactics where like it makes your head hurt looking at stuff, that stuff isn't what matters. That's kind of the sprinkles on top of the frosting on top of the cake. It's not even the frosting. That stuff can matter. It can make differences at the margins, but if you don't have the other stuff right, that stuff's not going to matter. So if you don't have the basics of your business in good shape, having those advanced tactics, I make the analogy, it's kind of like if you can't cook, if you burn toast, getting yourself a $5,000 chef's knife is not going to suddenly turn you into Gordon Ramsay. It's just not, right? I mean, and it's the same thing with tools. It's the same thing with advanced tactics and things like that. The advanced tactics are what can, maybe help you go from, 7 figures to, maybe one more multiple 7-figure. That's where those advanced things come in, not when you're starting out. And the problem is that so many people are looking at what their, the 7-figure entrepreneurs and even 8-figure entrepreneurs are doing and feeling like they should emulate those people. You should not. Those tactics are a mistake and stay away from them. So stop chasing secrets. There is no get rich quick scheme. There is no pill you can take that's going to suddenly make you an expert. There is no secret that once you get it, everything will be fine. That's the second thing you need to do. And it leads me into the third part of the marketing detox, which is what you actually need to do is keep it simple. In reality, business is simple. It's not easy, but it's simple. And when we complicate it, we screw things up. At the end of the day, business, whether you have an online business, an offline business, whether you're selling, a product or information, whether you're selling a course or a membership, it really doesn't matter. It comes down to the basics. It comes down to taking the time to truly understand your people. And I'm talking about really understanding them. I'm not talking about the just BS tactics where you just dream up what you think they like and write it down on a piece of paper and define your ideal customer avatar, as a real person where you literally, imagine their eye color and do things like that. Because that stuff doesn't matter. What I'm talking about is understanding the journey they're on, understanding the obstacles they face, understanding what they're talking about. And let me step back and be meta here. This podcast is an example of me doing this work, understanding that my listeners, that my audience talks about being overwhelmed. So, but it's that level of understanding. What are the things that are problems for your audience? And you need to understand them at a deep level. And I will tell you, so, I talk about my fans framework of find, attract, nurture, and serve. When people struggle, it's almost always with the find. It's almost always with that understanding your people at a deep level. If you have a launch that doesn't succeed, it's probably because you don't understand your people, so you can't write the right messaging. If you create a freebie that no one responds to and no one signs up for, it's because you haven't taken the time to understand your people. It comes back to it over and over again. So understanding your people is fundamental and you can't skip it. And then from there, you create content to serve them, kind of like this podcast where I'm talking about overwhelm and helping you avoid overwhelm, because I know that is one of the biggest challenges my people face. And so you do it with your free content, you do it with your freebies that help people overcome an obstacle. So again, the quiz I mentioned at the beginning of the episode that will help you identify where you're struggling with your email marketing. Again, you see how it's all aligned. These things that my people struggle with, I'm creating the content to help them. And then once people get on my list, you need to email them consistently and nurture them, because nobody wants to help someone who only comes when they need help. I use this analogy, which is, if you have a friend who never calls you except when they need something, you probably stop answering their calls. Well, the same thing happens if you only email people when you got something to sell. So you got to email them and nurture them on a regular basis and, do it in a fun way. Let them get to know you. Let them really start to understand who you are and feel understood at the same time. And then you serve them. You serve them by creating products that they want, that address their needs. And by the way, if you've done the other stuff right, you don't have to guess what product to create. They will tell you. My Fans First Society was created based upon what my people told me they wanted to learn from me. My people told me that they wanted to understand how I was doing this kind of high-touch, relationship-based marketing that was very different than what they were seeing from a lot of people. And so I created a product around that. And you can see that's how you do it. And if you go through that process, you're going to come to a point where it's like, you create a product that your audience naturally wants. They know, like, and trust you because you've been emailing them. And guess what? Then you can say, hey, I got this thing. Do you want it? And they say, yes. And I'm not the only one who does this. People who do this work and do the basics like this right, if they launch, say, once a year, they open the doors and their people are saying, yes, I want it. Give it to me. They have huge first day sales often because people are simply waiting for them to say, yes, you can buy from me. And if you do all that stuff, all the fancy funnels in the world, all the fancy social media tricks in the world, none of that stuff matters because you've done the actual work right. So keep it simple. Focus on that stuff. That's the third part of your marketing detox. Now, here's the fourth part. And this is kind of in some ways, it is an encapsulation of the last three, which is there's this concept known as the rule of one. And some people make it a bit too extreme for me. But the concept of the rule of one is that you're going to focus your attention in just about everything you do in your business on one thing until, like within a category, until you hit certain points. So some people would say, like, until you make $1 million, you're on one social media platform, you have one product, and you use one sales vehicle. That is a bit more extreme than what I would say. But I do like the concept that instead of believing that you need to be on every social media platform until you have a team and have a thriving business, just focus on one. If your people are most likely to be on Facebook and you like Facebook, be on Facebook. If your people are more likely to be on Instagram and you like being on Instagram, be on Instagram. If your people are on Pinterest and that's where they're going to hang out, be on Instagram. If your people are on TikTok, I don't know who those people are, be on TikTok. If your people are on Twitter, because I guess you serve like the political crowd or journalists, be on Twitter. But my point is that too many people have bought into this notion that they need to be everywhere on social media. And so they try to do that. They feel like they need to be on Instagram, on Facebook, on Pinterest, on, Twitter, on all of the different places, on LinkedIn. And so as a result, what they do is they splinter their attention and they don't actually focus on any one place. That is not a recipe for success, because social media, and now Pinterest is a bit different because Pinterest really isn't social media, it's a search engine. But true social media is about being social. It's about interaction. It's about connection and engagement. And if you're trying to do that across all the platforms, you don't actually do it anywhere very well. And so I tell you, focus on one. Now, I'm not saying you can't put posts up on the other places. Sure, do that. But understand where your power is and double down on that. To the point of where I am right now, I have built my business basically using Facebook. I'm on Instagram. We post on Instagram, but I have a very small following given, my revenue numbers and all those things. I think I may crack 1,800 people when I actually record this or thereabouts. That's not a big Instagram following, but that's because I have chosen to focus on Facebook because I enjoy the medium and my people are there. You can make that same decision. You don't have to feel like you need it. And I'm telling you this saying, I have a multiple six-figure business focusing on one social media platform. You can make that decision too and decide what works best for you and spend your time there. So there's that, but it's also with your product. A lot of people end up chasing product after product and, maybe they launch unsuccessfully or don't hit their numbers with a course. So they say, I just need to make it into a membership. Or vice versa. They have a membership and say, I just need to make it into a course. Or they say, I did that once. Now let me do something else. Let me create a new product. That's not the way it works. You build traction over time. You improve over time by selling the same product over and over and over again. That's where the magic is. And so focus on one product or one suite of products and two at the most, but don't try to go crazy. Now, again, sometimes you're going to have some, little things. And I'm not talking about if you want to have tripwires, like little, $27 offers at the front end when people sign up for your thing. That's fine. What I'm talking about is like trying to have a signature course and, a signature membership and a signature group coaching program, and then trying to launch all that at the same time and run it. If you do that, you're going to drive yourself nuts, and you don't need to. And people do it because they feel like, I'm leaving money on the table because my customers would buy something else from me. Let me give you a piece of permission. I give you permission to leave money on the table because the reality is that you're leaving money on the table either way. And let me explain what I mean by that. If you split your attention and say, my people who are in my course want me to have a membership so that they can continue with me, and therefore you create that membership, then all of a sudden you're serving two masters. You're serving people in the course and people in the membership. And the time you spend on those people in the membership is time that you can't be spending marketing and getting more people into the course. So again, I tell you, either way, you're leaving money on the table. Now, over time, you're going to want to add more products, and that will happen naturally and organically, but it should not be because you feel like you're supposed to. It should be because you are at a point where you feel like your one product is mature and you can, in fact, add the other product without taking away from the first. So think about it carefully before you do that. And again, the same thing with, kind of how you're going to market. If you want to do webinars and do 5 of them. 10 of them. I don't care how many, but just keep doing them. If you want to do challenge launches, do challenge launches and launch with challenges over and over and over again. If you want to do email-only launches, do email-only launches. And again, I give you some leeway. Like if you try something and it completely flops, try it at least one more time. And if it completely flops again, then maybe make a change. But what I'll tell you is for the most part, and my email-only launch is a bit different, but the difference between a webinar, a challenge, and a 3-part video series is really how you're breaking up the information you're giving to people. And if one of them flops, it's probably a messaging issue. It's probably not because you just needed a different kind of launch. So pick one, stick with it. So that's my rule of one. Keep it simple. Pick one thing, really, double, triple down on one social media platform, on a handful of products and one launch mechanism. That'll make your life simpler. So do that and you should be getting better. Now, that then brings me to the final thing I want to talk about for your marketing detox. And this one is not going to be popular among some of you. This one is that you have to chart your own path. What I mean by that is there is no one out there who can give you a plug and play, just follow exactly what I tell you and only what I tell you, and don't listen to anyone else, and you will build a successful business. This is, there are people, and it tends to be the life cycle of entrepreneurs. They come up through one kind of initial person who was their initial, mentor or coach or, a guide. And so they want to follow that person and they think all they have to do is follow that person. And I'm here to tell you it doesn't work that way. You're going to have to use your own judgment. And your own judgment is going to mean you're going to have to think through, can you combine something you learned from this person with something you learned from that person to make something better than if you just did it all by itself. And what I'll tell you is that's what tends to happen. Like I use elements of things that I've learned from Amy Porterfield, who was my first coach and mentor in the space, from things I've learned from James Wedmore, who I'm in his mastermind, and he's one of my coaches, from Ryan Levesque and his Ask Method, my quiz, and a lot of the things I've learned there. But I learned things I've learned from Tarzan K, who was my first email mentor. And I use things that I've learned from all of these other people like Marie Forleo and B School and Stu McLaren with Tribe. And I use all of those things. And I, at the end of the day, have to decide, what does Bobby's business look like? And you have to do the same thing with your business. And what I mean by that is that it could be in how you market, it could be in how you hire, it could be in 1,000 different ways. But you're going to hear contradictory advice. You're going to hear things from one person that is different from another, and you're going to have to decide for yourself which way to do it. That is what you're going to, look, I'm sorry if you don't like hearing it, but it's the reality of the situation. If you want a plug and play business, go start a McDonald's. They'll give you everything. Being an online entrepreneur is not like that. Every business is unique, every market is unique, and you're unique. And so you have to chart a path based upon what you have learned. And there's good news. That's good news and bad news, right? So the good news of that is, if you accept that and accept that permission, that gives you permission not to feel like you have to do everything that every guru tells you, kind of that first point. But the bad news is that it means you can't simply follow a step-by-step guide, because I'm telling you, there isn't one. People can tell you, what's worked for them, but at the end of the day, it may or may not work for you. And that was kind of one of, a while back, I did an episode. It was episode number 125, where I talked about kind of the parallels between poker and entrepreneurship. And one of them is that as an entrepreneur, you can do everything right and it not work out. So you could follow, someone who has a step-by-step guide for doing something, for, creating a course, creating a membership, creating a certain kind of funnel. You could follow it to a T, do everything they teach, and have it not work out. That's the reality of this space. And it's freeing, but also terrifying. But I tell you that because you need to know that this is not a plug and play, paint by numbers business. This is a business where you need to actually chart a path based on different things you learn from different people and create what works for your business. So that's my episode. That's what we're talking about this concept of a marketing detox. But my big call to action to you is to simply stop. Stop chasing your tail. Stop feeling like you have to do it all. Whittle down what has to be done to what matters, to what works for your business, to what feels right to you. And when you do that, hopefully the overwhelm will go away. And I am hereby giving you permission if you need it. And let me just go and tell you, you don't need my permission, but I'm going to give it to you anyway. My permission to you today is that you don't have to do all the things. You don't have to chase secrets. All you got to do is the basics. And then from there, you figure out what works for you and you'll be in good shape. So that's it. I hope you've enjoyed this. I would love to hear, what you have to say. Hit me up on Instagram. Again, you can tell maybe I'm trying to grow that area, but hit me up on Instagram at Bobby Klinck or on Facebook. I would love to hear your thoughts about this episode. If you haven't left me a review yet, I'd love to get a review from you wherever you listen to this podcast. I just want to hear what you're thinking and what your reactions are, because I really want to be having a conversation with you. So that's it. Go off and be a badass business owner. I'll talk to you later. That's it for this episode of the Certified Badass Online Marketing Podcast. Make sure to tune in next time. And in the meantime, go out and build the badass business of your dreams.